Hello and welcome to Latter-day Profiles. I'm Brian Howard here at the LDS Motion Picture Studio in Provo, Utah. And joining me today is Emily Peterson. Emily, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
So good to have you. Thanks for making the trek up from Logan to meet with us here in Provo. Emily is the CEO and co-founder of Saranoni, nice warm blankets made for all ages, right? Adults and children, whatnot.
Babies to adults,
The luxury blankets, and everyone likes a nice warm blanket, right? That's kind of cool. Let's talk about how you got started. Begin with your daughter, very personal, right? Tell us about how you got started with Saranoni.
Yeah, so we were young parents. Our daughter was, first daughter was born with what's called microtia, which is an underdeveloped outer ear. And so as we grew our family and had about 3 kids at the time, we wanted to be able to look into some corrective surgery for her. And we learned that the first surgery would cost over $100,000, and it wasn't covered by insurance. And so in those days, we didn't have like the GoFundMe or anything like that. And so we knew that if we wanted her to have that opportunity, we'd have to be able to provide that for ourselves. And so it was at that time that my husband and I were just brainstorming, and I came from a family of entrepreneurs. And so we decided that we would start a business and try to raise money on the side, earn money on the side to be able to provide those surgeries for her.
Wow, that's interesting. So, family of entrepreneurs, what kind of stuff had your family done for businesses, I guess?
My father and grandfather owned Dunkley Music, so a music store. So they started, and they did a bunch of different side businesses, a financial lending business and other businesses. But yeah, so that's kind of what came to mind. I needed to do something. I was a mom. I was a young mom. And so it made sense that like baby gift, we started as a baby gift basket company. And so it made sense. I was just in the thick of raising little kids. And so it made sense for me to do gift baskets. We had received some from my husband's work, and I just thought, well, I could do better, nicer, higher quality, because I kind of just wanted to throw those things away.
Sure,
and so we decided that, hey, we could try to go at something a little higher quality gift basket. So
how did that evolve over time? Because now obviously it's blankets, so gift baskets and a nice blanket in a gift basket is nice. But how did you decide?
Well, it was through a series of years, but basically after 5 years, my husband came to me and kind of showed me the P&L. And at that time, I didn't really know or care about a P&L, and he just showed that, hey, we haven't made any money. What are you're just creating these gift baskets? And I was having a lot of fun. I was working with women in Peru. We were wanting to do humanitarian and helping those in other countries. So I was working with people in India and Peru and loved it, but basically wasn't making money. And so at that time, we had done a luxury blanket. And that's what everyone wanted more than the other items. And so as we looked at things, my husband's like, well, why don't we just take it down to just the blankets? And so that's actually how it happened. So.
How did you get feedback from people? Because obviously people said they wanted the blankets. Was they, emailing you, social media? How did you find out what people were asking for?
Actually, when we started in 2006. So before the Facebook, Instagram type of, advertising and showing up there. And so it was more like email direct from the consumer, and we had some businesses that actually bought our gift baskets, and they came back and they're like, we just want the blankets. We don't care about all these other things that are kind of putting in the gift basket. And then eventually it was only baby gift baskets. And so eventually what happened is the parents started saying like, okay, I want a blanket for myself, right? And so that's kind of how we evolved from having just baby blankets all the way to adult blankets and even bedding.
Blankets were too small for me, right?
Yep, they wanted something soft, just like they wanted, like their baby. They were given to their baby. So.
And business is always a struggle, right? What was the motivation that kept you going, even though you look at the ledger, it's like, oh, we're not making any money, but you were having fun with it. What is it that motivated you and your husband to keep pushing on?
Yeah, it's obviously the business was started out of love. Love for our daughter, a desire to help her. And so I think that was the key motivator behind it, which helped a lot. Also, later on in the business, when things were going a little bit better, I was just overwhelmed. My husband still had his full-time job, and we were just trying to do business. I was working late nights, sometimes up to like 3 a.m. And so there was a time that I actually just said to Nathan, I can't do it anymore. I can't like be a mother to all these kids. And I think at that time we probably had 4 or 5 children. But to be honest, we didn't feel right. You know, as much as I wanted to kind of like be done with Saranoni then, we didn't quite feel right about it. And I'm so grateful now that I look at the turn of events that have happened in our family's life. I'm so grateful that we kind of listened to that feeling and that received that answer. And so we just kept moving on. And I think that was that motivation, the motivation out of love, and then just knowing and feeling like we were supposed to continue in the business.
Continue on. I know you and your husband intentionally prioritize faith and family, you know, ahead of business. How did you do that? How do you make that work in your organization? Because that's not typical, really.
Right. Well, definitely my husband was better at that than I was. You know, for some reason, he has always had a better perspective. You know, he's kind of like the person at the top of the hill and that can look down to that jungle, and where maybe sometimes I'm like in the middle of that jungle, you know. And so he was just so good. It was like, if it was family time, he was home, and he was home with the kids. He was taking them golfing. He was playing tennis with them. And, you know, I remember several times saying to him, you know, don't you think you should go back to work? Don't you think you should, like, the employees, do you think they're going to start to feel, you know, like we're not showing up as much as we should show up? And he was just good. He was like, nope, I'm supposed to be here. My family's number one. It's family and faith. Although you know, we tried to prioritize, but he was definitely better, and you know, I tried to follow.
How did it impact your employees? Because they can certainly feel that, right? Of where it is. How did they react to that?
You know, we've always had incredible team members, and Nathan was good at letting him know what the company values were right from the beginning, and we had a set of values, and one of those values was that family came first, and that our faith, regardless of what faith they were or that we were, that would come first. And so he was good about setting out those values within the company, and I think worked extremely hard. Like, we worked really hard. I mean, it wasn't like we were skimping out, but he was just good to separate that family time from business time. And a lot of times we took shifts, to be honest. You know, during the holiday season, our busy season, I would once we had dinner, we got kids down to bed, I would head to the office at 10 o'clock, and I would work till 2 and 3, trying to fulfill those orders when we were smaller. And we had to be involved in that process. So
that's tough when you're the owner, operator, and pretty much everything, right, when you first start, kind of wearing all the hats. How was it different once you got big enough? Was it hard to let those things go, or was like, oh, phew, someone else can help us out with this stuff?
You know what? We stayed pretty involved. Like that, I was talking about filling orders during the holidays. That wasn't that many years ago. And so, but I, you know, I think just trying to do our best there. It has been something over the last couple years. I have to rely way more on team members as I've tried to kind of manage a few things. And so we're grateful for good team members that step up and can really take hold of that responsibility and work to grow and develop within the company.
I know one thing you worked really hard about is having good relationship with the manufacturers, the people who are making the product. Why is that important, and how do you feel about that?
You know, we, right from the beginning, we were in different countries, like I said, and we wanted to be able to have an impact on individual families. And when we made that decision to kind of narrow it down to blankets, the blankets were overseas. They were being made in China. And we didn't want to just go to a large factory. And so we saw out individuals. And so we have these individual families that we're just dear friends with. In fact, we've taken our children over there since, but we would FaceTime with them. And they had one daughter, the one family I'm thinking of in particular. And, our kids would play the piano and kind of share their talents, and she would show her art. And we just had this really sweet relationship, and still do have this sweet relationship with them. And so our hope is that we can empower and help individual families. And the women that actually sew for us, a good portion of our blankets are actually sewn individually in the women's home.
So really a personal touch when it comes to those blankets. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah. I've heard you talk about knowing your why. What does that mean, to know your why when it comes to your business?
Well, I think a lot of times we just get so distracted when we are in business, and we can even lose motivation. And so I think if you have that why, if you know why you're doing it and what's most important, and are true to yourself, sometimes maybe we're not as true to what our inner core and values are. And so if we know our why, why are we doing it? What do we want to do? What type of impact do we want to have? And we can stay with those core values, then we can always come back to that. So when things are hard, or when we're like worrying so much about the financial side of things or other things that are the stressors of the business, you can come back to, okay, why am I doing this? Why? And we can kind of bring ourselves back to that core, back to that center. And I think that's where the motivation comes, is if we can center ourselves on that why. Why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, the deeper meaning, not just to make money, but why are you really doing this? And it makes some sense. Okay, that totally makes sense. Exactly. You do a lot to serve, as you talked about, people in other countries. How do you determine where you want to serve and how you want to do that type of service?
Yeah, I think our blankets naturally, it's been a blessing. Naturally, blankets are something that you can serve with. Like, it's something that we've really done throughout our whole entire, we've had Saranoni. We've tried to serve with our children. So when there's someone that's in need, been going through a hard time, or has had cancer, or had a new baby, we've been able to serve that way and really try to serve in the community. And then there were times where we decided, like, hey, our core value when we set up the company, we wanted to help bring people in different countries out of poverty. And when everything changed, like we weren't working with the people in Peru and overseas in India, we had to say, like, okay, now what do we want to do with it? That's still one of our core values, to be able to serve. And so we looked for opportunities, and we're able to connect with Vision Cambodia. Was one of the main organizations that we've connected with. And one of the reasons we like them is because they're people within their nonprofit, they aren't being paid, and so it goes more directly to the company, to the country where we're serving. But we've been able to do lots of great things in Cambodia. We provide safe births for mothers, and we pay for them to, instead of them having a baby out in the rice fields, we pay for them to have a moped ride to the hospital, to the clinic, have a baby there, and then have a ride home. And we also have provided wells there.
Wow.
We also, I think we want to help more long-term, not just like an immediate need. And so some of the other things we've done with them, we've been able to purchase looms and teach the women a trade so that they can provide for their family long-term. So it's just not like we're giving them money to give them money, but we're giving them money to be able to provide, water for a whole entire community, or a loom, so that a woman can actually have the means to be able to provide for her family long term. So,
have you traveled there? Have you been able to see firsthand people's reaction?
I haven't. My husband Nathan was able to go over there and see a lot of good. I get a lot of videos, a lot of pictures. One day I'll take the kids over there. So.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Well, let's talk about your husband. You really, in the middle of success, things are going well, and it seems like, of course, that's a time something always happens. This was majorly tragic. Tell us a story about what happened with your husband.
Yeah, you're right. It was at the high of our business. It was COVID time. A lot of people were wanting that blanket, the comfort, and just one day he came home. He had taken the kids to a BYU game. It was Halloween, and so I had taken part of the younger part of our family trick-or-treating. He'd taken the kids to the BYU game. He'd gotten up early in the morning to hold Bishop Burke meetings, so he'd gotten in after midnight. Then he had 6 o'clock meetings, and then he was serving as the bishop of our ward, and so he had tithing settlement. And so he came home really late that Sunday, and he just said, "I'm so tired." And I'm like, "Well, of course you're tired, right? You've been going a million miles an hour." But by Wednesday, he came home to take a nap in the middle of his workday, and I just thought, okay, something's not right. And he just felt like he had a thyroid problem. He was just tired, just really tired. I said, "Is there anything else?" But basically he was tired, and so. By Friday, I took him into Instacare to go see if, what we could figure out. And we were sent directly to the emergency room, and then it was determined that he had a brain tumor a large brain tumor in the middle of the brainstem. And so, of course, we thought he walked into. I mean, he was functioning as CEO, obviously as bishop and father, and had just been doing everything just like normal. We walked in Friday to the emergency room. Remember, he walked in, but actually by Sunday he couldn't walk on his own.
Oh, wow.
He couldn't walk without someone by his side, and so we walked him up to the stand on Sunday. And then through a series of miracles, we were able to get into Huntsman on Tuesday, and that was a blessing. And we thought we were going to go there, and we were going to be able to have, you're going to be able to have surgery, and you're going to be able to have chemo and radiation, and here's all your treatment plans. And we were just ready to go fight and give it our all, And we just thought we were there for an appointment and we would go home. But, we didn't leave Huntsman that day. And he had emergency surgery the next morning because the tumor had blocked his cerebral spinal fluid from traveling through his body. And so we went from a Tuesday appointment to surgery on Wednesday morning. And no options of surgery to surgical treatment to remove the tumor because it was in the middle of the brainstem, and actually no options for chemo and radiation after a week of being in Huntsman, trying to recover from putting a shunt or stint, I can't remember, stint into his brain. Then we were given at the end of that week, he was given 4 weeks to live. It was determined after the biopsy that he had glioblastoma, which is an aggressive brain tumor, aggressive form of cancer, and so that's we were blessed. We went on an optional treatment, unbeknownst to Huntsman, kind of a treatment that we found on our own, and we were hoping, for a miracle.
Sure.
But we received 8 weeks, I guess, total. So November 5th is when we went into Instacare, and on January 5th he passed away.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that, and one thing that hit me strongly is that he didn't need to really change or have regress because of the way he decided to live and run his company and be part of his family. That had to be a great, just a great comfort that he was able to do that.
Oh, I just think that was probably the most beautiful thing, It's not like he had to go to apologize to people, say to the kids, "I wish I would have spent more time with you. I wish I would have spent less time at work." He was, of course, I think we all in that situation would say, "I wish we didn't even have to work at all," right? That we could have just spent our time serving and being with our family. But he just had lived his life in such a way that he was able to just feel good and trust in the Lord. And I think back of those times that I said to him, "Well, shouldn't you have worked more? Shouldn't you go into the office?" And I would have just felt awful if he would have listened to me. He just had that perspective of what was most important. And I'm so glad he didn't listen to me.
Any at that point, as far as the business goes, what are your thoughts? Continue, move on, hold to what were your thoughts at that point?
Oh, you know what? We didn't even talk about the business. If I'm completely honest, I think you are in. We were just doing everything to try to help him have this miracle, and from exercising faith to spending time with our kids. He wanted to do one last thing with each of the kids, and so of their choice. And so we were just spending all this time doing that, and really it came down to one little sentence. I said, "What should I do with the business? Do I keep running it? Do I sell it? What do I do?" And he just turned to me and he said, "I trust you. I know you'll make the right decision." And that's all I got. So it was a whirlwind. I was not involved in the day-to-day of the business. I wasn't involved in the financial side of things. There was a lot that changed,
Changed about now your involvement is very different than what it was before.
But so that's what we got out of him, and that's how I think in that time, in that situation, that became our least important thing. Like it was crazy that we didn't even think about that. I mean, we were about ready to break ground on like our final home. We had this business, and those were things that just melted away. Like I could have cared less if we ever, had the business. Now I had to, later on, meaning weeks later or 10 days later, I had to go back. I mean, I had to provide for our kids, right? I had to continue. We had this company that needed to be run. But during those weeks, it was so insignificant, the business or a new home or anything of the world, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just the perspective is just a totally different perspective on like what's most important. Like I would have given anything, to keep him here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your family, because that daughter now, she's 22, is that right?
She's 22, yes.
So tell us the other side of the story. So things for her go well, her ear and the such? What's happening there?
It's interesting because as she grew older and was old enough to be able to have that surgery, we had Saranoni and were growing at that point, and she chose not to have the surgery. She just said, "I feel like Heavenly Father, gave me this, and I don't want to have it removed and have a new one." So she actually she has a prosthetic ear. And so that's what she chose. She did have to have some surgeries for her jaw because that side of her face didn't grow as much. But she's a beautiful girl. She's a musician. She's very accomplished. She's a great student.
Served a mission?
And she served a mission, yes. So she served in Mexico City North Mission and is home from it and is actually just hopefully going to be heading to BYU Jerusalem in April.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
You were telling me before she was the first, but you've had two others go on missions as well.
Yes. So let's see, when was that? Probably 6 months after Nathan, a little less than about 6 months after Nathan passed. Our oldest son Elijah was going to go on a mission and made the decision not to. So our son received his call on graduation day. And so we had tons of family there, and we thought the call might come, but it actually, because of a series of some technical difficulties, the call actually didn't come till 7 o'clock that night.
Oh, okay.
Instead of morning like it normally does. And it was so fun because we had this whole group there for Isaac to receive his mission call. He received his mission call. It was kind of a shock to me. We have a video, and I don't even look like I'm excited, but he spoke Mandarin, but he got called to Merida, Mexico, speaking Spanish. And then he said, Eliza has something that she shared with me that I've asked her to share with everyone else. And so at that time, she got up and she was emotional, but just said, "Hey, I just know how proud Dad is of Isaac and how happy he is that he's serving a mission." And then she said, and I have a text that I'd like to read. And she started to read the text, and I didn't even clue in. It was like, Dear Sister Peterson, and I had no idea. But, you know, without me knowing, she had decided to go on a mission, had done everything, and they had both received their call that night. And so they had gone to Nathan's grave and opened their calls together, and they both got called to Mexico, leaving the same day. So was Mexico City North, and he was Merida. So it was a really special, powerful experience for us as a family.
And I appreciate you taking time to share your story. Difficult story, but also inspirational of being able to keep your faith through some difficult times. So such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you, Emily, for coming and taking a few minutes with us.
Thank you.